Hello everyone and welcome to Now You're Playing with Power, a Nintendo podcast. This is episode 24. My name is Lordnbz and I'm joined by my co-host, my Super Smash brother, if you will. It is, of course, Bally.
Hello everyone. Yeah, my knees are still feeling a bit tired from the marathon that I completed a couple of weeks ago now. So it was Sunday the 28th of September, I think. So
yeah, we recorded a little bit early that week, so you had the opportunity to do your marathon, because otherwise you would have been tied down doing a podcast, but had to be the other way around. So
it's been a while, but yeah, completed it in 3 hours 27, but
excellent time indeed.
We'd like to do another one in the future.
Great, and you raised a bit of money for a charity as well, so
yeah. So thank you for the donations I got in. I got a few, so that was great, and I've raised over £300 to the NSPCC, which is great. Yeah, thank you very much.
That's fantastic, awesome. Well, with all that out of the way, this preamble, let's get into the show. Bally, what are we going to be talking about today? What's being laid out?
So today we're going to talk about what we've been playing as usual, then we're going to get to some of your emails, and then finally, I can't believe we've not really mentioned it yet, but we have been playing Super Smash Brothers for the 3DS, so we've played absolutely tons of it, and we're going to give you our sort of first impressions of what we're thinking of the whole game, and yeah, look forward to it.
Yeah. Jeez, I mean, it feels like we have been talking about Smash Brothers a lot recently, but that's because it's kind of a big deal, right? It's a big thing, so we've got to give it a lot of time and attention and love. And now that the full game is here, I think it deserves some scrutinization, so we shall give it such treatment. But before we do that, we are, of course, going to kick off with the stuff we've been playing recently. So, Bally, how about you tell us? Tell us what you've been playing.
Well, I'm in Florida right now, actually, in Marco Island, which is which is great fun. But
just living it up, aren't you?
Now, exactly. So I've got all the handheld with me, but I've not got my Wii U, obviously. But before I came to Marco Island, the last couple of weeks, I've been playing a couple of games. So first of all, I finished up Trine 2. I completed all of the extra stuff, and
the Goblin Menace DLC, as they call it.
Exactly. And in those final DLC levels, there is no let up, like in the design of those final levels. It really keeps reinventing the environments, and there's nothing. It feels like there's nothing ever repeated at all, really, when it comes to the visual design of the game, which I've said before is my favorite aspect of that game.
Yeah, and I think they totally just make every chapter and area in that segment super distinctive. Comparative to the main game, which the main game is got some pretty cool levels on its own, but they never feel like extremely far apart from one another. There's kind of a linking theme between them, and you see it kind of flow through, but this is very wow, this is a completely new place I've never been to before.
Yeah, so I love the design, like I said, of those levels, and in total I think the game was really long. I think in total it took me 18 and a half hours, almost 20 hours or something, I think. And for a 2D platformer, that's a really long time, so I was really happy with that. The final boss of the DLC I thought was incredibly difficult. It is
really hard. You really need to kind of get yourself in the right position, and it's quite hard to do, especially doing it in single player, because we were able to do some multiplayer before, and that makes a lot of things easier. But trying to position the angles and get it all right, I do feel you there. It was hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, but it's fair, and I think the design of the boss makes up for it, because it's so cool, the idea that the goblins have this contraption that they're almost sort of testing on you to I mean, I'm giving it away now, but yeah, it's just a really cool boss, and yeah, an absolutely amazing game in general, and I've said it already, but I'd love another game in the series. I know they're not working on one just now, but I mean, you never know.
Right, Frozen Byte are doing something else at the moment, but Trine is very successful for them, and a lot of people really love it, and I'm sure that they will return to it at some point. And with technology where it is right now, the PC version of that game, the third one, if they make one, will look insane. I can almost guarantee that. So hopefully they will port that to Wii U eventually as well. But in any case, what else is it that you've been playing?
Well, from something that I wouldn't normally play in the form of an indie game, and I should say that I'm now very keen to try some other indie game experiences.
Yes, indeed.
So another thing I don't normally play a whole ton of are third-party games. So I downloaded a while ago, not a while ago, it's only about a month ago now, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag.
Yes.
And I'm about almost 20 hours into this game, actually. I've played quite a bit. I'm not even that far through it, and I've played 20 hours. And wow, like, it is so good. Like, I am absolutely loving this game.
So Bally, let me ask you, because you have never been someone who has tried these kind of huge experiences before, in the modern era, it really started out on the PS2 with the GTA games. You never had exposure. I mean, you've played those, here and there probably, but you've never had a true experience on your own, just sitting there and going into a world and getting into it. Is it overwhelming? Do you enjoy it? How is the experience of that impacting you?
I loved it because they don't give you the entire world straight away. So, like I said, I've never played an Assassin's Creed game before, so I was quite worried that I'd find the whole thing overwhelming. But because it's Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag and there's so much new ship stuff. I know they had the ship stuff in 3, but they really improved and added to it apparently for 4.
Well, I mean, they had to really, because it is pirate themed, so.
Yeah, exactly. So at the start of the game, you are dropped into a bit of ship combat, but it's a very sort of simple bit of ship combat, and it's more for the drama than actually to teach you how to do ship combat, because you do learn that later. What I was really enjoying about the game is that you're dropped on into the city of Havana straight away, Cuba, and the city feels. Now, I've not played any other Assassin's Creed games, but the city is basically generic Assassin's Creed. It's some interesting buildings, some towers to climb up, some churches, spires, stuff like that, and there's stuff to do in and around the city. They basically teach you about the whole assassinating people, the mission structure. You do some missions there, and then after that, the game so you basically get this nice little. Okay, so for those people like me who hadn't played it before, here's Assassin's Creed on this island. You're going to do some Assassin's Creed stuff, and you're going to do that for maybe 4 or 5 hours, and then once you've done all that, we're going to take you out to sea, and then we're going to open the world up massively, and the game just skyrockets in terms of the amount of stuff to do from that point.
So you're kind of set loose on your own and able to go out and be an old pirate, right? And sail the seven seas and all that good stuff.
Exactly. And that's probably my favorite thing of the game so far, is the way they move from that idea of just being in a city in Havana to the open sea. So what happens, and this is spoilery, although it is near the start of the game, is you get caught by the Templars. I'm struggling a bit with the story because I've not played other AC games and all the Templars, Assassins stuff.
The story in Assassin's Creed is apparently super fucking convoluted, and I think they did drop a lot of this for the fourth game, because there's a lot of backstory between the first and the third game, and yeah, I think they've kind of streamlined it a bit more, so it's not really something you need to pay attention to.
I'm sort of struggling to keep up with it, but it hangs in there. It's a fine story. The cutscenes are nice. So like I said, you get caught by the Templars, and they take you on their ship and lock you up in like the bowels of the ship, basically. And on this mission, you break out of your cell, and you then have to assassinate the guards. You then go onto the upper deck. You then take out everyone as stealthily as possible on the upper deck. You're in the middle of a Templar fleet. It's like a Spanish fleet. So you then can jump between ships, and you're assassinating people on the ships, recruiting pirates to join you and take over one of the ships. So you eventually free enough pirates by assassinating their guards, and then you take over the original ship. You basically then take the control of the ship, and they ask you to sail away from the fleet as fast as possible, and then the cannons go off, and it's just that progression from being locked in your cell to sailing away to escape the fleet is awesome, because the way they did it was just so clever, and I love the way that after that point you can basically go anywhere in the world within reason. There's certain areas you can't go, but it's just incredible the way it does that.
Right, they're always going to block stuff off because you want to have some form of progression later on, and you want to be getting to other areas as a matter of course in the story and that kind of thing. So they do want to keep some stuff locked away, but it does sound very cinematic, and that is a lot of what these big AAA games are doing these days. Is they're taking the cutscenes and the voice acting and all that stuff and really ramping up to 11 and just going whole hog with it. So, do you like that? Do you enjoy the cinematic feel of the game, and what do you feel about the voice acting and all that good stuff?
I love it because this really, in almost every single way, is Pirates of the Caribbean, the game, but done better.
Right, I was actually just about to say that the sequence you described sounds exactly like the start of Curse of the Black Pearl, where Johnny Depp and Orlando Bloom would go and take the ship and sail away from the bay. So
that's the thing this game does amazingly well, is stuff like the ship combat and taking over ships. So, like, NYPPQuestions, name 3 things you would hope to be able to do if you were a pirate in the Caribbean.
All right, drink rum.
Yep, you can do that.
Go to Tortuga.
Yep. Well, I think you can go there. I don't know where that is, but yeah.
And I don't know. Kill some pirate.
Yeah,
pirates.
basically. But literally, there's so much stuff to do, because there's taking over ships, there's trading. For example, you can, every time you take over a ship, you can decide one of 3 things. You can either use the stocks of that ship to repair your ship, or you can recruit the ship to become part of your fleet, or you can, what's the final one you can do? You can tell the captain of that ship to lower your wanted rating. So every time you take over a ship, your wanted rating goes up, and then it means more ships in the sea will come after you. So you have, there's a real diversity to what you decide to do with every single thing you do in this game. And
excellent.
It's just so much stuff to explain. I can't even explain it on this podcast, and I'm definitely going to talk about it again.
With your fleet, are you able to then command them to go off and do tasks for you while you do your own stuff?
Yep, exactly. So you can control it all from your own ship, the Jackdaw. So your ship's the Jackdaw. So you basically go into the hull of the Jackdaw, and you go into this interesting menu where you basically enter your ships into battles to secure areas of the Caribbean, and then once areas are secure, you can send ships within your fleet to go and do those missions, and then they're timed in real time. So sometimes they can take up to sort of 10 hours real time, where it logs into like the Ubisoft server or something, and then does that mission, comes back, and then you get money for it. And that's the thing, is that like, there's so much stuff to buy, from ship upgrades, costume upgrades, weapon upgrades. You even have your own island. This really reminded me of that island in the Wind Waker. You actually have your own island with all these buildings that you can upgrade. And then you can keep coming back to that island throughout the game and upgrade the buildings to gain stuff that like helps you with the game.
And when it comes to like all this side quest stuff, how much time are you spending with that versus the main story? Are you just kind of goofing off most of the time, or how's the balance gone with it?
I've sort of, and this is actually something Giant Bomb talked about, where I think they defined what makes a good open world game when they were talking about Shadows of Mordor, and that is that you should basically do the top 3 things you want to do, and hopefully the story mission comes into those top 3 things. So basically I'll be sailing around, I'll think, okay, the story wants me to go here. I want to do this, and I also want to do this. And then I decide, right, I'm just going to do all three of those things. Why not? Sometimes and then I do them in sometimes a really random order, but often I might know the story is about to be something ship combat related, and I'm like, okay, right, I need to go upgrade my cannons. How do I upgrade my cannons? I need some more money. How do I get money? I do some missions. So the, the missions vary drastically in the length they take. So it's really great that you can just choose to do a little short mission, get a little bit of money, or do the seriously huge missions where they're sort of like ships of the British and Spanish empires that are worth an awful lot of money, but at the same time they have so many ships guarding them, and you can go on these missions and earn thousands and thousands of, I've forgotten the currency of this game. It's called
Gold?
no, it's like the Rialta.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like it's the traditional Spanish Empire currency.
Right, right.
So yeah, you can gain loads of money by destroying these ships.
And
It's really
do you
cool.
feel that the side quest stuff is engaging? Like, I know a lot of times in open world games, sometimes I won't give a shit about side quests. I played the whole of Red Dead Redemption without doing basically any of that stuff. I just mainlined the story and enjoyed myself regardless. Is there rhyme or reason for you to go after these things? What kind of benefits do you get from doing them?
The obvious benefit, and I actually would be surprised if anyone can complete this game without doing the side missions, is because of how crucial money is to improving your ship. And having a ship that can only take a few cannon shots is really irritating. So, like, upgrading your ship, I think, is so crucial to the story. And it snowballs to some degree because once you upgrade your ship, you can go after bigger ships, and once you go after bigger ships, you get more money to invest in your own ship. And when you got your own ship's got even bigger cannons, it can go after even bigger ships, and it just keeps going. And you find
Right.
yourself improving your ship quite quickly after the first. I mean, the first time you try to take over a ship, it is horrible how difficult it is because your cannons are so weak, your ship strength is so weak, and it just takes ages to take down even the smallest ships. Whereas I've already upgraded my cannons and my hulls where I can take over some of. I like to think they're the biggest ships in the game, but I'm pretty sure that there are even bigger ones to come
I
later.
did hear that there are some like super hard like end game stuff which
Oh,
are
really?
really ridiculous. Yeah, I was watching on an IGN E3 stream and they were talking about how there are going to be these really difficult end game ships for you to take on after the story's completed. So
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of tough stuff out there.
So, I mean, all those side quests add to your money, and the money is so crucial in helping you do take over ships, which is a really important part of the game. So, absolutely loving this game.
So you were saying that you are enjoying the gameplay of it thoroughly, despite the fact that maybe you're not following the story that closely.
Yes, I because I've never played AC, I honestly think I'd still enjoy this game without all the ship stuff. But that ship stuff basically adds so much more for me personally, because I love Wind Waker, like everyone on this who listens to this podcast, I'm sure is aware of, and I really think that the discovering of islands and chests and stuff like even like stuff like hunting the wildlife to upgrade like your pistol pellets and stuff like that. You can there's so many little things like that. They're just so much fun to do and explore. Like for example, I was just walking through this jungle that's next to my house on my island, and a panther just leapt out of the forest and just starts attacking me. And then it's like a Q, what is it called, a QRT? What are they called? Where you have to
Uh,
press a button
a
to it's like
QTE,
a
quick time event.
QTE, yeah, a QRT. God, yeah, it's a quick time event to like defeat it, and then you shoot it, and then you got a panther hide, and you can use that to upgrade something or another. And it's just little things like that they do really well. And there's just so many upgrades. One, okay, this is the last thing I have to say about this game because I think it's one of the best collectibles in the whole game, and that is the shanties. So shanties are basically songs that sailors sing, and whenever you're in any of the cities or certain islands, shanties appear. They're sort of they're golden floaty bits of paper, and when you get near them, they start floating away from you. So they actually do require a bit of platforming and chasing, which can get frustrating at times. But I mean, the reward once you catch them is really cool, because when you collect all these shanties, they basically add songs that your crew will sing while you're out at sea, and it's so cool just collecting these shanties, and you hear them sing these songs, because you can then look at like in the pause menu, and I should say that the pause menu in this game is unbelievably in depth. Like, you can look up so much stuff, and there's so much lore and backstory.
Overwhelming, almost.
Exactly,
You want to say.
so overwhelming. And I was about to say you can look up the lyrics to all of these songs that they sing, and some of them are like so hilarious, about this one pirate who's obsessed with this one girl or something, and they talk about how much of a hoe or something she is, and they just sing about it. And it's so piratey and X-rated, and it's just hilarious, and it's a really fun. It really fits the game, and it's incredibly violent, and there's so much assassination, obviously, and it just fits the pirate theme so well, just of gore and, I don't know, jolly singing and getting drunk all the time. It so fits the theme really well. Absolutely loving it.
Well, very positive stuff from you, Bali. That's really
Yeah,
great. I was always kind of interested as to how you would react to like the modern day AAA game, and I think Assassin's Creed is a good jumping in point, and yeah, I'm
yeah.
really glad that you've come away very positive from it. And still quite a bit to go in the game, so
Yeah,
sticking
loads
with
to
it.
go, and I mean, it's a shame that the only other Assassin's Creed on a Nintendo console I can buy is 3, but based on this one, even though I've heard some mixed things about 3, I'd still be up for buying it, because I mean, it's not overly expensive on Wii U, and I'd love to experience even more Assassin's Creed after this game, so might get that in the
Excellent.
future.
All right, cool.
Sorry,
Okay.
I went on a bit there.
No problem. We want to concentrate on stuff that we're talking about. So I'm going to talk about a game that most people have played a lot, and most people love a lot, and is a classic and is well known among pretty much every single person, and probably you listening to this podcast. It is A Link to the Past, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past on Super Nintendo. I decided, there was the Zelda sale going on, as you know, Bali, when Hyrule Warriors was coming out, and I was kind of deciding, like, do I want Hyrule Warriors? Do I really care? And I was like, I should really take advantage of this sale. So both of us did. You went ahead and got Link's Awakening as well as Link to the Past, right?
Yep, yep.
And I decided I was just going to get Link to the Past for the moment. And it was kind of sitting there on my Wii U gamepad, and I had a time during the first week of uni where I was, my computer wasn't set up yet, so I couldn't really do much on that, and I was trying to just set everything up. And the one thing that I had handy was my gamepad and my Wii U, so I was spending a lot of time just in the evenings, just going on there and trying a bit of Link to the Past. And before I knew it, I was really deep into the game. I'd gone through some dungeons, and I'd kind of gotten a lot of equipment, and I was getting some heart pieces. And before I knew it, end of the week, I was done with it, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, did you even mean to plan this game? You just sort of played a bit and then all of a sudden played the whole thing.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, I feel like I've had this experience with Zelda games recently with Wind Waker, where I was like, "Oh, let's start Wind Waker." Oops, finished it in 3 days. It's kind
That
of
was ridiculous. I was
yeah.
so shocked at how quickly you completed that game.
But I mean, it really does speak to how well designed Zelda games are in general, and how much they entice you to keep playing them and want you to get after the next thing and go after and keep going. And Link to the Past does that very, very well. I think that because it is a very small, contained world, you never have to go too far to get anywhere, and there's always so many different things along the way that you can find. There are secrets and hidden things, and the travel is relatively easy once you get some certain items, and it becomes easier to go from place to place. And so, yeah, I guess that's why. That's why it took me such a short time.
So another game you raced through was A Link Between Worlds.
Right.
We both raced through that very fast, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh, the map is the same between this game and A Link to the Past." Did that like help you get from A to B in many parts of the story?
Well, I think it's kind of interesting because I recently was listening. Well, I guess not recently. When the game came out, I was listening to Podcast Beyond, a PlayStation podcast, and Colin Moriarty, who is one of the hosts on that show, is a big old school Nintendo fan, and he really loves their old stuff. He's not a fan of their current stuff that they're putting out, but he said he played Link Between Worlds, and he was like, yeah, Link Between Worlds is a great game, but it's pretty much the same game as Link to the Past. And I could not disagree with him more. That is literal bullshit. I cannot believe that he views it in that way, because Link to the Past and Link Between Worlds are so different. The mere fact that you can even entertain that statement just boggles my mind, but I think he's really drawing on the fact that yes, the worlds are the same. They're very similar in terms of the overworld because it is pretty much the same place that you're invested in, but everything else is so different. The entire dungeon design, some of the items aren't even in the game. The whole structure of it, with not being able to do them out of order like in the new game, it's completely different. And I really don't understand where that idea comes from. But in terms of being able to find my way around, yeah, it was to some degree a little bit easier, but I still felt myself going to the map a lot of the times, because especially when you're going between the light world and, in this game, the dark world, which in Link Between Worlds is something else. It's like some shadow realm. I can't remember what it's called. Low Rule, right? Of course, they made the terrible pun. So yeah, I still. Yeah, exactly. I still was making liberal use of the map. It has to be said. But yeah, it definitely kind of it made me feel like I kind of knew where I was going.
And do you think it's a much tougher game than Link Between Worlds?
I think that the challenge gap between these games is the most vast of any Zeldas. This is without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, the hardest Zelda I have ever played. And of course, I've never played the original. I've not played Zelda 2, which is infamous as being unbelievably difficult. But this is so hard. Such a tough game.
Are we talking about the puzzles, the bosses, the enemies? Like, what's the toughest bit?
I think more than anything is combat. Combat is without a doubt the hardest thing, because it is very punishing. You have such a small range with your sword. Your sword goes hardly anywhere away from your body. And not only that, but the radius of the swing doesn't actually affect enemies fully. You're only hitting them with like the very tip of your sword a lot of the time. And I was telling you this kind of tidbit that I was trying to cut grass, and in Link Between Worlds, when you cut grass, the entire arc of your sword will allow you to cut like multiple bits of grass at once. In this game, you have to be directly in front of a piece of grass to slice it away. So you can't do any of that going into the middle of a thing and slicing around. You could do the spin attack, of course, but that uses up magic and everything. So it is so precise. It is ridiculously precise to the point at which it becomes very difficult to take on some of the harder bosses later on, and even just some of the regular enemies in the room. It requires a huge amount of concentration and just precision. So yeah, that was a big tough stepping point for me.
And what's the plot like? Is it a proper, Zelda plot line that you're genuinely interested in, or is it just, oh, here we go, now A to B to C, here's a boss, here's the enemy, blah blah blah.
It really wasn't a story that I paid attention to be perfectly honest. I don't think it does very much with it. There's not a lot of it's a Super Nintendo game. It's not supposed to be able to pull off story that well. There are some RPGs that did that kind of thing excellently, but when it comes to Zelda, no, it's just kind of generic. Hey, the Triforce is broken, go get it, and then you fight all these people and you go through the dungeons, and that's pretty much it. It didn't have any kind of lasting impact on me. I just enjoyed it for the gameplay, and when it comes to Zelda, that's the primary thing that I'm interested in anyway. So it wasn't a huge loss that the story was kind of average on top.
And where does it rate in terms of your favorite Zelda? So your favorite Zelda is Skyward Sword, right? A very unique Zelda, I would say.
It is, it is.
This game I mean, I've not played it yet, but I'm really keen to. Like I've said, I've played Link Between Worlds. That's probably one of my favorite Zeldas. Does this game come anywhere near close to your favorite Zeldas, or is it just far too punishing with those enemies?
Well, I do talk about that, but I will say that the fact that I'm playing this on Wii U helps tremendously, because I have access to save states, right? Save states are a savior for me because I'm not sure I would have even been able to complete the game had I not had access to them. Certainly, it would have taken me much, much longer to even get through it. As a total, it was about 16 hours for the end game, which is pretty good, considering how old the game is. It lasted a pretty decent amount of time. That's probably how long it took me to beat Link Between Worlds as well. So
Yeah, I was gonna say that's almost the exact same length for me as well.
yeah, so yeah, that's a big point. If you are gonna be interested in playing this game, but you're too worried it's going to be too difficult. If you play it on Wii U Virtual Console, you have the access to save states, so don't be worried about that. It's definitely good to experience it. In terms of how it kind of ranks in the pantheon of Zelda games, I would put it below Link Between Worlds. I do prefer that game just because it is such a smooth experience and it doesn't stop for anything. You're never kind of stuck at any point, or at least I wasn't. I really felt that I just had a huge amount of momentum going through that game. But Link to the Past demands a lot more of you. It's much more of a game you have to focus on and be really engaged with, but despite that, it does kind of rank a little bit lower.
Which Zeldas does it beat for you then? Like, is it getting up there at all?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I find it more enjoyable than Ocarina of Time, most certainly. I think Ocarina is one of those games that a lot of people have a huge amount of nostalgia for.
We've just lost all our listeners, NBZ.
No, I do think that Ocarina is very much an overrated game. I think it's good, but when you look at it and you scrutinize it in modern times, it just doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold up anywhere near as well as Link to the Past does.
That's quite interesting, NBZ, that you sort of see Link to the Past as better than Ocarina of Time, because a lot of people always consider those two games as like the two classic Zeldas that not any Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, Skyward Sword isn't beating in the slightest. Like those two classic original titles are considered, not me personally, but by many, as the two best ones.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is nostalgia-tinted glasses when it comes to Ocarina, especially, because of the time that was situated in. It was your first 3D Zelda. Of course, it's going to make an impact. There's no way that it isn't going to. But playing it these days, I just don't. I think there are much better games. I think, to be honest, Twilight Princess is a better version of Ocarina of Time in many aspects. There are a lot of things that it does much worse, and a lot of flaws that Twilight Princess has, but it does the dungeons a hell of a lot better. It has a much larger and more interesting world, I feel, and there's a lot of things that I think that game should be praised for, and it gets swept under the. I think it does get swept under the carpet a lot in kind of comparison to Ocarina of Time, which is a shame because I think it's better.
I feel like I mean, we've both got quite a lot of Zelda on our plate right now, with me buying this game and Link's Awakening. I feel like once we've all played them all, we just need to have a special episode where we sort of put them all up against each other and get a definitive list of the you're playing with power top 5 Zelda games of all time, or something like that. I think that
we should do that. Yeah, that would be good. We need to play a
all.
Bit more of them. We've got Minish Cap still to go, Link's Awakening.
We got Minish Cap, Link's Awakening, Link to the Past for me. I still want to pick up Ocarina 3D, but I think after those 4 games, I will have played enough Zelda where we can probably put something together.
Totally. Well, I guess to close, I really think that this game has some pretty fantastic stuff when it comes to the dungeon design and the bosses. Some of these bosses are spectacular. They're really astonishing for what they were able to pull off back in the day, and they have some really neat ideas behind them. The one thing I'll maybe give it a knock on in terms of the dungeons is, for me, they're not super memorable. I mean, potentially that's because I played it in a week, and I wouldn't have done that back in the day. I'd have spent a lot of time with those, but for me, like, 3D Zeldas have a much larger impact in terms of which dungeon is which, and how much I enjoy one over the other and how memorable they are. But when it comes to something like Link Between Worlds, even and this, I do struggle to remember even the layout of the dungeons and what kind of the theming was and that kind of thing. It's just not as strong. But I don't think that's any fault of the game. It's just kind of something that relates to me, honestly.
All right. Yeah, no, I'd agree because the 3D Zeldas, it does feel like the build up to each dungeon is so epic and thematic and spectacular that by the time you're at the start of the dungeon, you're like, wow, and you really remember the journey, including the dungeon itself. Whereas I felt like this with Link Between Worlds, to be fair, although I've not played Link to the Past yet, and that is that the dungeons are less memorable because the build up to each one is so short and sweet. It's not like a
Yeah.
big journey. And I think that's just a 2D, 3D thing for me at least.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, in any case, I'm really glad I finished it. That's two Super Nintendo classics under my belt. We've got Super Metroid: Link to the Past. Guess it's Super Mario World up next, probably, if I've got to add to the trilogy.
I'm gonna play that game very soon actually. I've decided that's probably next on my backlog when I get back to my Wii U.
Excellent. Well, we'll hear about that at some point in the future, I guess. But that is going to wrap us up for this segment. Thank you for sticking with us to what we've been playing. We are going to come back after this short break, and we shall answer some of your emails. So do not go anywhere. We shall be back in a bit.
Emails.
Alright, everyone, welcome back. We are going to take a stab at some emails that you have sent to us, and you can send all of them, if you want to our email address, which Bally's going to tell you.
NYPPQuestions@gmail.com. And I know I sound like a stock record, but I'm afraid we're running out again.
Yeah, it happens, it has to be refilled. There is times of
Exactly.
need, and it's pretty much every episode. So
Exactly.
get
I mean,
those coming.
one episode we'll do some special where we do a separate segment, but for the meantime, I mean, we just need to keep piling the emails in to do the segment, so keep them coming.
Yeah, give us some interesting topics, quick fire questions, whatever you want. Send them our way. Anyway, Bally has the first email of the week. So what is it?
So, this email is from Fernando. Hey, Bally and MBZ, to you guys from Brazil once more. Thanks for the amazing shows. They make my days at work so much better. You guys asked me for more Game Boy stories, so here's mine. Actually, my grandfather was the first gamer I ever knew. He would always buy me a console for Christmas and also buy one for himself. He did that for the NES, the Super Nintendo, and the N64, and we used to play together a lot. He also had lots of consoles just for himself, and one of those was the original Game Boy. I used to play a lot of Tetris on his Game Boy, but never had one for myself. When Pokemon Blue came out, all of my friends started playing, but I could never justify getting the game since I didn't have a console to play it on. I managed to gather money from lunch, presents, etc. to finally be able to buy a used Game Boy Pocket from a friend of mine. I was so happy. My parents bought me Pokemon Blue, and from then on, I was a gamer. I remember the Pocket took AAA batteries, which used to cost a lot of money here in Brazil, and last for so little time. I had to contain myself to save batteries since my parents wouldn't buy them so often. I even put batteries in the freezer in order to make the most out of them, lol. Great times. Thank you once more, Fernando. P.S. MBZ, I picked up Fire Emblem Awakening just as you started your Let's Play. It's my first Fire Emblem game and I'm loving it. Following the story with you has also made it so much better.
Excellent, good stuff. So wow, yeah, I have never had the experience of any of my grandparents getting into video games
Yeah,
whatsoever.
I
So
know,
that's
right?
really really cool. That's a crazy crazy thing.
Let alone my parents.
Yeah, that's really a thing that I don't know happens in many families. I think it's quite unique that that happens, especially in this time and age. But wow, it's great, and I'm glad that you're able to get into gaming through that conduit.
You can put batteries in a freezer to make them last longer. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, is that a thing? Is that an old wives' tale? Is that something that's scientifically correct?
I see. I always remember people would put their like SPs or like lithium batteries. So if you have like an SP or a phone that have lithium batteries, if you just stick it between your legs and warm it up, it'll last a bit longer. Like that's how you get
Is
the
that
most.
really true?
Apparently, yeah. But that's the
Okay,
complete
well,
opposite of what Fernando's suggesting. So
right.
I'm
He's going the
yeah.
other direction with
So
it.
I'm completely lost. But yeah. Anyway, thank you
Well,
for that story,
anyway,
Fernando.
great story. Yeah, thank you.
We're intrigued for anyone else's Game Boy stories. Well, this is another question from another person called Fernando.
Quite a
Strangely enough,
coincidence,
yeah.
right?
So I didn't think Fernando was, the most popular name in the world, but apparently it's more popular than we first thought. So this is from the second Fernando. Dear NBZ and Bally, my name is Fernando, and I am a long-time listener, but this is my first time submitting an email to the show.
Very good.
My first question for both of you is, what third IP outside of Nintendo do you think fits into the Nintendo aesthetic well enough to be a Nintendo IP in terms of its main character or overall atmosphere? For me personally, I think Shadow of the Colossus and its main character Wonder fit perfectly into the cast of Nintendo characters, perhaps because of its similarities to Zelda to an extent. So,
Okay. Where would you go with this, Bally? Do you have anything that you want to jump on instantly that you comes to mind?
I could do the obvious and say stuff like Little Big Planet because
Right, I was gonna say that
yeah,
as well.
sorry, I might
I think
have
that's the one
stolen
that
it
your
from you.
mind jumps to instantly.
Yeah, and that's
True.
a sort of I mean the closest thing I'd compare that Nintendo have in the down the line coming out that's similar to that would be something like Mario Maker. I mean they really don't have a sort of customizable two sort of game with 2D platforming elements that to my knowledge. So I
No,
guess
no, that's true though. Mario Maker is basically going to be their version of Little Big Planet. So,
yeah, I mean it's
like,
very
and I
different.
do tend to
Obviously.
forget that game even exists. I just I know
I
it's
know,
coming
right?
eventually, but it's like, oh wow, remind me that yeah, that's a thing that's happening. It's really cool. So yeah, I'm kind of excited for that. He says Shadow of the Colossus. It's an interesting one because I didn't really think about it, but yeah, it does bear resemblance to, I guess, probably stuff like Twilight Princess is the closest analog in terms of how dark it is comparative to something like Shadow of the Colossus. But totally, that's something on the theme of Zelda. I would say something like Okami would fit into the Nintendo stable
Yeah.
pretty well. It is. It's already on a Nintendo console. I'm not sure that that IP has much more in it, if it's even allowed to, because the creators who are Clover Studio basically shut down, and then they became Platinum Games, who of course are doing Bayonetta and did Wonderful 101. So I don't know what happens with that, but there was Okami Den, which was a game on DS. So that's one that I think of. Anything else come to mind? I mean, if you think about things like Metroid and
Well,
things like that.
I always think that uh, Nintendo ultimately are the Japanese Disney. And I mean the companies are both so large that one isn't big enough to buy the other, I don't think, and that if they ever did do something it would be a genuine merger.
I think Disney are probably large enough to buy Nintendo at this point. The amount of stuff they've bought.
I know Disney are much much bigger, but I don't think I still think Nintendo costs a lot more than some their other purchases like
They
Star
probably
Wars and
do, yeah.
Marvel, but I don't know. I mean,
Right.
what one
I mean,
day
it's a whole company compared to franchises, right?
exactly. So I mean, anything under the Disney umbrella, I think, always links up. I'd love Mickey Mouse to be in Super Smash Brothers one day. I think that'd just be so cool. Like,
Wow.
I'm really intrigued by Disney Infinity. So like, I always think that that's a very Nintendo style game.
Right, and it does really well on Nintendo consoles, as far as I know. The Skylanders games as well did really well on the Wii, especially, and I think Disney Infinity is going to be quite the hit. The second version of that. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't know. There's nothing else that really comes to mind. I mean, there are a lot of Metroidvania style games going around that I really adore and think just would fit perfectly. Stuff like Guacamelee is great on Nintendo platforms, and I think that it would fit as an IP into Nintendo. So yeah, that kind of thing in general. All right.
So we have an email from Saint. Hi guys, Saint here again, writing from the Bay Area in California, USA. In reference to
Home of Green Day.
Exactly, and a lot of video game journalists.
Yes, indeed.
In reference to family gaming, my family is weird. My mum and dad don't play anymore, but they used to play games with me. My mum basically only played fighting games, and my dad played through Donkey Kong Country on the SNES when I started gaming and played any racing game I ever got. My brother is the other gamer of the family, but basically only plays tablet games and first-person shooters, mostly COD. He dislikes most of my RPGs and Pokemon because they are, quotes, for little kids, or because they have bad graphics which make them unplayable, or some other nonsense. As far as the third segment, I basically like them all and couldn't care less which ones you guys do. It might be fun if you guys ever had the chance to like race through a game or parts of a game and record it like they do on the channel Versus or whatever it's called, or VS Versus. Maybe a
Versus,
game
yeah.
you both don't know are both good at. Sorry for the long email.
All right. A lot of stuff in there, I guess. In terms of us recording stuff, me and Bally doing that kind of thing, we have been doing some stuff recently with Smash Brothers. That's been a lot of fun. I guess we'll see what the future
we were
brings,
going to
but...
maybe record some Trine 2 at one point, just do a bit of co-op, but I mean, it's just finding the time really, and finding what what game people like and what game people don't like. Like Smash Brothers is a very mainstream game for a Nintendo fan, so it's a win-win. It's great fun to play, it's great fun to record, lots of people like it, and yeah, it's just a good game to put up. But I guess a more sort of in-depth cooperative experience to upload it'd be interesting, but for now we're just the podcast, I guess. For now.
Yeah, and I like it that way. I like the podcast is the format that we express ourselves about games, and
but I mean, do you think just an audio of us playing a game would work? I don't
know.
Yeah,
no,
I mean, I don't.
Not.
We'd have to be so descriptive about everything we're playing.
Yeah, that doesn't work, Bally. That's not a thing.
As for your brother who plays tablet games and first-person shooters, that is like the opposite of like everything I like about video games. Like, I really hate tablet games, and I am not the biggest fan of first-person shooters. But yeah, thanks for the email. So now we've got an interesting one from Daniel Bunzelmeyer. Hello, MBZ and Bally, my two favourite UKers, or not? Question mark. This is, of course, in reference to the referendum that was a few weeks ago, which we can proudly say was a no. So we are now remaining part of the UK, and that is that. So this is Dan from St. Louis and MBZ. Where do you reside? I know and I think Bally is a Scot, but I'm unsure of your residence.
Well, I live in... I'm just going to answer this up top.
Okay, sure.
Because we're not going to get back to it, probably. I also live in Scotland. That's how Bally and I met, because we both lived in the same city and we went to the same school. And
from the age of 5?
Yeah, I was 4 when I arrived. But I've known Bally for a lot of years.
Yeah.
Just leave it at that.
So the rest of the email. Anyway... You asked for a freshman 15 for the mailbag, and I've delivered several pizzas worth. Let me first say, as always, that I love the podcast and love it when you guys shake it up and do those special theme segments for the third segments. It adds a uniqueness that differentiates your podcast from all the others. My flattery aside, it's time to talk about video games. I've been pretty solidly fixed on Pokemon for the past year, among other sports-related titles and replays of older games. Needless to say, I haven't ventured outside my usuals in quite some time. This past weekend, however, after listening to you guys talk about it a while ago, and in conjunction with the Smash sale on the eShop and MBZ current playthrough, I decided to pull the trigger and get Fire Emblem Awakening for the 3DS. Best decision of the year. I'm absolutely loving it. I've only been playing it for a little while, but I'm already hooked. The marriage mechanic just adds this entirely new intricate layer of replayability, and it's so incredibly deep with the loads of flavor text programmed into the game. Just for your information, my avatar is going after Sumiya. Screw Crom, he can find someone else. Can't say enough good things about this game. Of course, the big news lately is Smash 4 for the 3DS. Not only does it appear smooth, it appears to really control well too. There is still one thing that I'm still unsure of, and it's not even in the game. The 3DS slide pad. I think he means the circle pad, but I'm not sure.
Circle pad, yes.
Circle
yes.
pad. This thing is very fragile, and as much as you have to use it in Smash, I don't think even the most care could help it from breaking. Funny that they launched the cringe new 3DS now, isn't it? I want to play Smash, but I will avoid buying the game if it means my 3DS stays alive and lets me continue playing other games I like. As two guys who I'm sure have the demo and have played it for a while now, what is the feel of it? Does it feel like too much of this will break that pad, or will an adjustment in playing style negate the effect of wear? I'd be interested in your guys' personal experience and what you've heard as well. Also in Smash 4 news, my best character Lucas seems to be left out for this installment. I'm quite sad about it. What are your guys' biggest disappointments with the final roster, and what characters are you most happy about? Also, what are your favourite characters in general? Whew.
Well, Daniel Bonselmeyer delivers as always in the email content vastness that he has.
You're just converting the whole world, NBZ, to playing Fire Emblem Awakening. I feel like I need to join the cult.
Almost every email we get on this show references Fire Emblem in some way, shape or form. It gets in there.
We've spoken about loads of games on the show, but your LP and love of that game has just become so contagious for our fans that it's just become a thing.
A lot of people really do, I mean, when I first did the original Fire Emblem on my channel, I discovered that there are a lot of people who were a fan of the series, and then there were a lot of people who'd never heard of it before, and as a result, I mean, by the end of that playthrough, loads of people came up to me and said, I went out and bought a Fire Emblem game because of this LP. So, I was really proud of that and happy to bring more people into the fandom, I guess, as it were. So, excellent. I'm glad you're enjoying Awakening.
More importantly, is your circle pad still attached to your 3DS XL, NBZ?
Oh god, thankfully. And I tell you what, it is a dangerous business with Smash 3DS, especially for me, because the 3DS that I have is, as I've said before, a capture unit, meaning that it is really very valuable, and if I screw it up and the circle pad, for some reason, gets destroyed, then I am really in a bad place. Not gonna lie, it would be really terrible.
And I'm sort of the opposite, where I know I'm getting a new 3DS, so if my circle pad falls off, it's not the end of the world, although it is a bit of a shame, basically. So
you don't really need to worry about it. But I mean, let's talk about it because it has been a big deal. A lot of pictures showing up. There was an article Kotaku ran showing, hey, look at all these people who have broken circle pads. I think a lot of it is to do with the original 3DS having a weaker circle pad than the XL. I think the majority of them come from the original one, which is one you have, of course.
Yeah.
The XL doesn't seem to be suffering as badly from it, but there are still a lot of pictures floating around the internet of broken circle pads, and it is a sad sight to be sure.
Part of me now this is me being very optimistic, but part of me thinks that it's just a vocal minority, that no matter what sort of hardware you release, there's always a 1% who will always just completely fuck up that hardware no matter what you do. And especially with a game like Super Smash Brothers, where it's a really intense game if you're playing it properly and having a serious number of inputs in a very short space of time. So I know you say that the old 3DS is more susceptible. I would argue that it's just it's an older system, and that a lot of people who bought a 3DS on launch, like myself, are probably in danger of breaking it just because their circle pads are really old.
Right, it's been
And
used much more. That's
yeah,
true.
but I mean, this is speaking as someone with an attached circle pad. It's not fallen off yet. So I honestly think, for me personally, it doesn't feel like it's going to break off anytime soon, touch wood. But I seriously think it's a vocal minority who are just going ham on their 3DSs, and they just need to
Yeah.
chill out because it's
I think you do
yeah
need to, it really is those people who are being a bit ridiculous with the system and going over the top with it. Yeah, you need to control yourself really, and if you do that, I think you'll be fine. But it kind of sucks that has the ability to do that because, of course, when you come to something like a GameCube controller or even any traditional, console pad, that's never a danger
yeah
because you have the analog sticks and they're so firm and well fixed there. And of course, you can always go out and buy another controller, whereas this is, linked into the device itself, so it's really a much bigger threat if you, destroy it
Yeah,
somehow.
and
Which,
I'd love to see video footage of how these guys were playing Smash Brothers 3DS before they broke it off because they must have really been going hard. Because I personally feel like I've always been a non-C stick smasher, so I've always pressed the analog stick and the A button at the same time to smash. And obviously, you have to do that with the 3DS because there is no C stick as of yet, as the new 3DS isn't out. Yeah, exactly. But I've always played pretty hard when I've smashed, and I've, like I said, it's not fallen off yet, and it'd be a real shame if it does fall off. And like if this problem persists, I'm sure. I mean, Nintendo might reconsider the launch date of the new 3DS in the rest of the world or something because they might feel, you know what, why don't we just strengthen the circle pad or something? That wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility, I'm sure.
No, it certainly wouldn't, but it seems like a little bit of a niche case to go after, right? It's maybe a
Yeah.
bit too much to invest for people when it's not affecting that many,
Yeah.
in all honesty. As for asking about, what characters we're disappointed with in the final roster and everything, we of course are going to have a segment after this relating to Smash, so we will hold our horses on that one, but we will get back to them in the next segment, and we'll talk much more about Smash. Before we go there, we have one final email. So Bali, why don't you read that one out?
Hey NBZ and Bally, I'm Jyflosion from Las Vegas, Nevada. I haven't asked a question in a long while, and I've been meaning to do so for the past 19 episodes or so, lol. Anyways, what are your top 3 Nintendo games on your backlog that you really want to play and why? Mine are 1. Bravely Default. Loved the battle mechanics and soundtrack of the game and unfortunately stopped playing because of Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. Number 2, Kid Icarus Uprising. Such a great game and the voice acting was excellent. Came close to finishing the game but stopped for some reason. Number 3, Rockman 1 and 3 through 6.
Rockman, of course, is the Japanese name for Mega Man.
Ah, I was on a quest to beat all 6 Rockman games on my Japanese 3DS Virtual Console. The only difficulty on the Japanese versions is hard mode, so it is quite a challenge. Luckily, save points are available, so that's convenient. I halted my conquest because I bought Shovel Knight after I'd beaten Rockman 2. Shovel Knight was a really great experience, and after I'd beaten it, I felt a need to take a break from platformers. Also, I would like to hear your opinions on Shovel Knight if either of you have any experiences with it. Honorable mentions, Fire Emblem Sacred Stones. I've transferred my data on my 3DS like 3 or 4 times, and every time I do so, I always forget to back up the save data for Fire Emblem. I'm not completely sure if you can back up save data for GBA titles. I've had to restart the game every damn time, so I got pissed and stopped playing all in all. P.S. Bally, when will you finish this game, and are you still planning to play Fire Emblem Awakening? And then another mention for Ace Attorney 5 DLC case, same instance with Fire Emblem, forgetting to back up data when transferring to a new 3DS. P.S. NBZ, what is your progress on that series? Do you plan to play them all? Thanks for your time. I hope this wasn't too long of a read. Cheers.
All right. Well, Bally, I have an easy and well-used resource in order to tell this fine gentleman what games on my backlog I am most egregiously gonna have to go back to and finish. You have do not have a backloggery account, so you won't
I
feel it
have
as
them.
it
I have
happens.
them in my head. My
Uh-huh.
my top three games. Okay, so I mentioned this earlier in the show, but number one, the next game I'm gonna play um, is probably gonna be Super Mario World.
Yeah.
I think you bought this for me ages ago as a
Yes, I
gift, or
did.
did I buy it
Yeah.
myself? I can't remember. I think yeah, you bought
I
it for me way back on the Wii.
Yeah. When you
And
could
then
gift stuff, when you used to be able to gift stuff
yeah,
on the
why
Wii,
did
which
they
I don't
get
think you
rid
can
of
do
that?
anymore.
Yeah.
No idea.
So I'm gonna play that. While I'm out here in Florida, I don't want to just play Smash Brothers, although that is a tempting option. But
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna also try and start Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, which is on my Ambassador program on my 3DS. I've only ever played Canvas Curse before, so that'll be interesting to see how I enjoy that Kirby game. And then other than that, I mean, there are plenty of other games on my backlog, but after that, a game that I bought when I bought my Wii U that I have still not finished, and it's really bad
Yeah.
that I haven't because I just need to do the last couple of worlds, and that is Super Mario Bros. U. It's a great game. I don't know why I've not done it yet. I mean, it is quite challenging near the end, so I'm probably going to struggle, and I'm not going for the completion with all the coins or anything. I'm just going to get to the end really and have a bit of fun with that in the months to come. But yeah, those are probably my top three. MBZ.
Excellent. He also asked when you're going to finish Sacred Stones, because that's heavy on your list.
Okay, so I bought as part of one of the Smash Brothers sales, I bought Fire Emblem 7. Is that right? 7?
Yes, it is.
So
Yeah.
I
I
bought
mean,
Fire
it's
Emblem.
it's called just Fire Emblem in the West because there's
Yes.
never been one here before. But
So
in the chronology of the series, it is the seventh game.
so similar to Advance Wars 1 on the Game Boy Advance, you said MBZ that it has sort of a much better tutorial system. So in Advance Wars there are 10 there's like a beginner campaign with 10 individual
Right.
missions.
That's essentially the same
Yeah.
thing. It's a beginner campaign. It's
So
10 chapters.
so
Of,
I was
of the
really
intro.
struggling with Sacred Stones, and MBZ, you kept saying, "Oh, you got to try this one. You got to try this one." I was like, "I'm not going to buy another Fire Emblem game when I've not even completed the one I own." But on sale, it was something like £4, and I thought I
Yeah.
can play it on the Wii U. I'm gonna have save states. It's gonna have the tutorial. So I mean, I'm personally keen to play through Fire Emblem 7. Try and complete it, hopefully enjoy it. If I enjoy it and I'm like, right, I want to try some more Fire Emblem, I'll continue my Sacred Stones file, or maybe even start the file again just so I get back in the swing of it. But at the moment, I'm really kind of not enjoying Sacred Stones because I don't understand all the mechanics. Basically, because the game never told me all the mechanics. It drops you in quite at the deep end, I felt with that game, especially compared to Advance Wars 1. And then, like you said, MBZ, having beginner missions on 7, I might as well do that. So that's my plan for Fire Emblem. And then basically after I play all of those, I might potentially buy Awakening. That's much further down the line, though.
This is like in 3 years' time.
Yeah,
Clearly.
exactly.
Going at the pace you have with Fire Emblem.
Yeah, precisely. It's not up there on my to-do list. That would
Yeah,
be my
nowhere
backlog.
in the immediate future.
Yeah. MBZ,
Okay.
what are your top 3 backlog
So
games?
I'm perusing my backloggery account, to which I alluded before.
I've got a suggestion.
What?
Metroid
I know
Other
what you're
M.
gonna say. Right, it's exactly. I was actually gonna say that. Yes,
Oh,
Metroid
okay.
Other M.
Is that number 1?
Metroid Other M, probably number 1 on my
Oh,
backlog
excellent.
list. I have to say, I bought this game launch day. I bought this game the day it came out, and since then it has been a sad, sorry tale of playing an hour here and there over the past 4 years or so. Yes, it has been out that long.
4 years. Oh god.
It's been a brutal road with Other M. I do think I'm gonna finish it this year. I do think I'm gonna get it kicked out of the backlog, but That's one that's really heavy, and is sitting there. Another one on the Wii, which I got the same year, it was the end of 2010, GoldenEye on Wii, which I did not finish the campaign for. I was really enjoying it, and for some reason I just put it down, and I didn't get back to it. But I want to go through and finish it. Obviously, the online is completely busted for that game because the Wi-Fi connection shut down, so I can't do that anymore. But I do want to finish the single player because I had a lot of fun with it, and I think now that I've had a lot more experience with first-person shooters, Titanfall and all that stuff, I think that it'll be easier for me to go back to, and I'll potentially have a more fun time with it. So that's my second one. As for the third, I mean, to kind of tie in to what he mentioned about Ace Attorney, because he was asking me what my progress is on the series, and my progress is I have Ace Attorney 5, which is Dual Destinies, and I've started it, and I'm on the second case of that game, and it was the game I was playing alongside Link to the Past, but then Smash Brothers has come out, and that's kind of derailed things, so that's kind of a reason why it's been put on the back burner at the moment. But I do plan, once the Smash Brothers hype has died down, to jump back into Dual Destinies, and I will probably be talking about it on the show at some point in the future. That's another one. I guess I'd put that as my third one on the list. So there you go. There are three of my backlogged games.
Excellent.
Hopefully we'll beat some of these at some point.
I've been quite religious actually about kind of going to my backlog and saying, right, here's the game I have to play because I own it. I'm not going to waste my money. I need to play it and enjoy it, and then I talk about it. I mean, that's sort of the process of what I've been doing with this podcast, and it's been going pretty well.
Yeah, it has indeed. Well, anyway, that is pretty much our segment for the emails. Of course, we need some more, so please do come and write to us. We may have had an influx of new listeners as a result of a nice little shout out on RFN 400. So if you're someone who has come here as a result of that, do feel free to send us an email. The email address is Bally.
NYPPQuestions@gmail.com, and yeah, tell us what you think of our show in comparison, perhaps.
Clearly nowhere near as good, but we do our best here. We do our best.
We try to improve.
Yes, of course. So yeah, that's going to end our segment. We will return for the third and final, where we're going to be smashing some brothers and talking all about that new game. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hello everyone, welcome to our third and final segment. We are going to talk about Super Smash Bros. For 3DS, and that is the final name. And I am disappointed by that. Let's talk about that first, Bally. Were you disappointed that ended up being the final name and that it was a Wii U for the Wii U version?
Yeah, because I mean, Melee and Brawl are so distinctive. You just say Melee or you say Brawl, and then when you're in the games, there's an actual mode called Melee or Brawl, and you know exactly what those modes are, whereas in this version it's just called Smash, and it's like...
Well, I think they've kind of succumbed to how the competitive community treats it, because they call it Smash, right?
I guess if you look at it like that, it is a cool naming idea and convention. I guess you've persuaded me.
And I mean, it's simple enough to refer to it as Smash 4, Smash Brothers 4. You know,
Smash
a lot of people are just
3D,
calling it that.
Yeah, Smash 3DS. It's pretty easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I mean, to be honest, I think it's a lot to do with the marketing of the product. They don't want brand confusion. Oh, though fucking hell, Nintendo are really bad for brand confusion as it is. But I guess maybe they've decided, hey, maybe we should try and avoid that by distinctly saying, hey, this is the one on the 3DS. You don't want to buy this if you have a Wii U, because come Christmas, parents are going to be going in and they're going to be buying the new Smash Brothers for their kids, and their kids might not tell them, which is, it would have been difficult.
How many kids who don't own a Wii U but own a 3DS, they're gonna get Smash Brothers Wii U for Christmas because that's the one that the guy in the store handed to the parent, and the parent said, "Okay, I'll buy that." Oh,
and the parent also took the strategy guide because
because you can't finish a game without a strategy guide. He said.
Of course, you know that all too well, Bally.
All too
well. So anyway, let's get into the meat of it. Let's talk about Smash Brothers. Are you enjoying it, Bally? Is it a good game? Would you recommend it to people? 10 out of 10 or what?
Pretty near to 10 out of 10. I think if you're going to make a Smash game on a handheld, they couldn't have done it any better. Actually, they could have in some areas that I'm sure we'll get to, or maybe I should say them now. I would just say that there's a lack of single player deep subspace equivalent mode, basically.
Right, but do you really care about that? When it comes down to brass tacks of it, Subspace Emissary for me wasn't really that fun. I enjoyed the fact that there was this cool cutscenes and the character interactions, but when it came down to it, it was really just a bad kind of Kirby game.
Well, that's what I was really hoping for. I mean, I wouldn't want it to be like Subspace Emissary. I'd want them to do something new and different, and it doesn't have that. And trust me, and we'll get to that as well, Smash Run is not that new and different mode. It's just it's just a mode. It's not like the mode. And I wish there was a mode that you could call the single player mode that is genuinely interesting, something new, something fresh that you can play single player and enjoy.
Now, well, the Wii U version still has to come out, and I think that if there is a chance of that sort of thing happening, it will come out on that version of the game. But as it stands, I think that it's kind of forgivable that the 3DS doesn't have any of that because it is the handheld one, it's the portable one. It's also coming out first, so they didn't have as much time to work on it and do stuff like that. So, when it comes down to it, it probably does make sense.
Yeah, but, I mean, it hardly affects my overall opinion of the game. It just makes me give it a 9 out of 10 rather than a 10 out of 10, and otherwise it's an amazing game. I couldn't be happier, really.
So when we get down to the brass tacks of the mechanics, I think we already talked a lot about from the demo about how good the game feels to play. It's so smooth, and it runs at an amazing frame rate, and even in 3D it still holds up. And I think that experience is translated into the final product. It does seem to keep up the standards that the demo had alluded to, and I couldn't be happier for that because there's so much great stuff in here. The stages all look fantastic, and I love the ability to change between the final destination and the normal, and so far we haven't really played a lot of item games, to be honest, so I haven't really seen any sort of slowdown or any of that, and if it were to happen, I think that's where it would occur, but so far, plain sailing, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think mechanically it feels great, and we knew that from the demo, but now playing with all the characters, doing all the game modes, it really, really does feel a lot better than I thought it would, considering that this is it feels like a Smash game ported to the 3DS almost. It does. While I know it was created ground up, it feels like they've tried to make the Wii U version smaller, and it doesn't feel bad in that way in any way. It actually feels workable and works really nicely, which I'm really happy about.
Yeah, and I mean, it did take some logic leaps in my brain to try and get a handle on the controls, but I think I have them down at this point. I think, of course I would much rather play with a GameCube controller, and I think that I'm going to perform much better as a player when it comes down to the Wii U version, just because I have that ability to use that pad, but at the moment, I think I'm holding my own, I'm doing alright with it, so yeah, it's been pretty great so far. So Of course, in our previous segment, Daniel Buntelmeyer sent us an email asking us about disappointments with the roster, what characters we are really happy about, and stuff that we were looking forward to playing. Now that we have the game, we can kind of say definitively what characters we're enjoying. So, what people are you diving into in this game, Bally?
I've already played a lot with the old comers, as it were. So I mean, my old comers that are mains for me are Mario, Toon Link, and Fox, and Olimar. Although I never used to play Olimar, and I'm trying to get into him. So they all feel really nice. Out of the newcomers, I've not played all the newcomers because I've only just unlocked like Jigglypuff and Duck Hunt Duo, as they're called in the European version, which is a little strange. Um, Out of the newcomers, Greninja is the big surprise for me. I think from the second I started playing with him, I thought he felt really smooth. I love his side B move. And for those who don't know, his side B is like, it's a ninja style teleporting move. It's almost like Zelda's up B teleportation, only sideways. And on top of that,
I believe it is a representation of the Pokemon move Shadow Sneak.
oh, is it Shadow Sneak?
Your shadow crawls across the ground
Yeah.
and you appear and strike.
So
I think
yeah,
that's what it
so
is.
like you said, MEZ, there is a shadow you're controlling across the ground, and it feels like using Zelda's side B with her Din's Fire. You sort of hold it as long as you want as you hold it as the length of the time it takes for the shadow to get from A to B, and B being the point at which you want the attack to be carried out. Wow, I explained that so badly, but you're moving a shadow across the ground to attack a guy, and it also works if you overshoot with the shadow past the character you're attacking. The Greninja will still attack them back the way, if that makes sense. It's really hard to explain on a podcast, but hopefully you can look it up online maybe. But I really like it.
Or they'll probably be playing the game and know exactly what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
exactly.
So
I hope you do know what I'm talking about, because I think it's a really cool move, and I'm still getting used to his counter, and his counter feels it feels the same as the other counters in my opinion, but I love that it leaves a substitute behind sometimes, and other times it leaves a chunk of wood. I think that's just like a really nice touch. Out of the other newcomers, I've not really tried them. Who else have I tried?
It's overwhelming, isn't it? Like you look at the character list and you think, "Wow, that is so many characters." It kind of dawned on me. I was going through classic mode and I was like, right, I'll just go through, as the roster is laid out, and I'll just, smash through classic mode, get all the trophies, and I get like to Bowser Jr. on the top row, and I'm like, well, I've been going at this a long time. There's still like 5 rows left. There's so many people to play as, and I've really barely scratched the surface. And I think that's one of the things that's going to give this game a huge amount of longevity. Is I will stick playing my main characters a lot, but I do want to branch out. I want to try different people. I want to try Palutena. I want to see how she does and get good with her. I want to try something like Duck Hunt Dog and see how he works and all that crazy stuff, because I don't think it is. I think you're going to be a bit closed-minded if you just made one person and never even try anyone else, no matter what, because there is so much wealth and variety here that it just begs to be played, and that's why I do want to go through with multiple different people.
Yeah, and I'd really love to add another few of the newcomers to my sort of group of mains that I like to use competitively when I'm kicking your ass online, MBZ. So,
yeah, well, speaking of online, how about we talk about that, because that is a point of contention among people, and we're very worried about the potential for it to fall flat on its face, but surprisingly so far, things seem to be doing okay online. Of course, day one was a little bit hitchy because everyone was playing and it had just come out, and obviously the servers were going to be hit really hard. But after that, I really have not had any bad experiences. I've had some online games against random people that have been smooth as butter, almost as if it was the in-game. And with me and you, we've had some really great ones and got some good ones recorded as well. So I think that it's almost as good as playing in person. How do you feel about the online so
I
far?
played a match online before playing you online, and it was a little bit laggy, and as in input laggy. So any controls I was making, there was a little delay before that action was carried out. Then I played you, and the input lag was much, much, much smaller. I'd say there was ever so slightly a tiny bit in certain matches, but in the majority of our matches, there was what felt like none. And yeah, we were
Yeah.
having some really great matches, and it felt like we were just going hard, like we were sitting next to each other playing Brawl or Melee. It genuinely felt like that. But the great thing is, like we were saying, there's all these new characters, and like the game has seriously just stepped up when it comes to that roster that you're now able to just experience so much more, and to do that with a smooth online mode is such a relief. And like it's so great that we now know we can play online smoothly. So if we just do that same setup, I sit quite near my router, I assume you're relatively near yours, and we know our Wi-Fi connections are just strong enough that we have a smooth match, and it's really satisfying.
And I'm not sure how much of that to do is to do with us playing without items, because I'm sure that that would add an element of, extra lag to come into play. But so far we haven't been doing too much of that, so I'm not sure. But
Yeah, and certain stages like the Spirit Track stage, for example, where there's a lot moving in the background, I think.
right, so it's scrolling, so there's always going
Yeah,
to be the background changing constantly.
there's always more risk of lag for those levels, obviously, but overall it's great.
Yeah, and especially with the opportunity to choose the final destination stage, which we should talk about, I think that's a genius move. I think it is definitely one of the best things that they've put into this game. The opportunity to play any level you want and to decide, hey, you know what? I don't want to have the giant yellow fucker in the middle of Mega Man stage. I just want to play that stage, listen to the awesome music, and
Yeah,
have it just soak up the atmosphere and play. And it gives you that option. It is there if you want it to be, and I love it.
I think it is the single thing I love about this game the most. Probably the only thing that probably beats that is the character roster, which I think is really impressive and nicely expanded. I think those two elements, the roster and adding. Well, having said that, the online is really great too. So maybe those are the top three things of this about this game that
You know what? It's just the whole
step.
package
Yeah,
for me.
it's great. It all works so nicely, and we've had some incredibly epic matches online and on those final destination stages, and it's so nice to experience the like you said, the music and the background of stages, even if they do simplify it to the final destination setting. I think that was a stroke of genius by Sakurai.
Undoubtedly, it was great for him to put it in. So we've been really positive so far. We said this game is great. The standard Smash modes are fantastic. We're really enjoying it. Let's shit on it a bit, Bally. I mean, we've got to do it sometime, right? We've got to get
Yeah.
around to the elephant in the room. Smash Run is a pile of garbage, and the fact that they spent so much time talking about it at E3 and marketing it as this brand new thing, it's a bunch of bullshit. I'm not gonna lie. Smash Run is utter trash, and I don't see any value in it whatsoever. It is a throwaway mode that I couldn't give less of a shit about. How do you feel, Bally?
I almost entirely agree, although I do think it's ever so slightly interesting fighting some of the enemies and seeing some of those enemies. For example, just a random one off the top of my head, Ghastly is an enemy, and he has an intricate way of destroying him, so you have to use projectiles, you can't use regular moves on him. But once that initial, oh look, that cool enemies in Smash Run, once you're over that hump, it's really bad, and it's because it's 5 minutes of wandering around this strange world, attacking enemies, collecting the collectible power-ups, and then you're just dropped into just a minute long match, and that can be a match, a race, or any other kind of mode
I
that
mean,
they stick in the
sometimes it's
game.
just kill like loads of Mii's on the
Yeah,
screen. It's like, be the most enemies defeated. It's like, what? What was the point in that? How is extra power going to help me? Because these guys are going to fly off the screen no matter what I do. So
yeah.
why does that matter in any way? What's the rhyme or reason behind it? To me, it is literally the Subspace Emissary gameplay without any of the awesome cutscenes, without any of the interesting character matchups. it's literally you just smacking AI, getting these things which ultimately mean nothing in the end. And I mean, I guess the only thing it's good for is collecting like collectible things, like outfits for your Mii and that kind of thing, and hats and
Yeah,
those additional customizations. You know.
here's a suggestion of one way I use Smash Run, because like I don't know if we've mentioned it before, but you do have to play Smash Run to unlock certain things in the game.
You do indeed,
So
yeah.
when you have to play Smash Run, what I like to do with Smash Run is before you go into it, this is one of the only customizable parts of Smash Run, and you can't customize anything else, but that is you can choose what music you listen to. Now, the music in this game is unbelievable. It is so over the top considering it's just a little handheld game. Um, the remixes, the tracks, I think Smash Run is a really good area of the game where you can just select any music track you like to play during yourself playing Smash Run. So I think it's quite a good sort of way to listen to all the music in the game. But other than that, it's just a bit poor, really.
It's dog shit.
Yeah.
It's dog shit, Bally. It's fucking dog shit. It's terrible. It's a piece of trash.
But do you
Not
think
even
that's
be
something you
mentioned.
would try? You might put on your favorite track or a track you want to listen to that you've not tried yet before going into Smash Run, so that you can. Because I quite enjoyed that. I was listening to the couple of Pikmin songs that are in the game, for example, and then just went on through Smash Run, and that was that. I think I won, and that was
Yeah.
it was.
You know, I just I'll have to do Smash Run because basically I like doing the challenges. I like unlocking those and getting new things from them. So I will inevitably have to do more Smash Run because it's part of the game and they've implemented it in that way. So I mean, I'm going to play it, but it's going to be begrudgingly, honestly. It really is, because it doesn't offer anything of value whatsoever. Not only that, it's not even fucking online. Like, you can't even play this shit online. So, if you don't have anyone locally, what are you going to do? Like, play AI? Great, that's a bunch of fun. That's really great, because they offer a huge challenge. No,
Yeah.
it's not good. It's not good, and it is not worth it. It wasn't worth the marketing behind it, and really don't know why they pushed it so much. And I don't know even why it has its own icon on the main screen. Like, not even classic mode has its own icon on the main screen, but
Yeah.
this does. Unbelievable. I don't understand it whatsoever. It really just feels like they couldn't think of anything else to put into the 3DS version, so they had to come up with some bullshit, and this was what they landed on. Disappointed, to be sure. But, you know, aside from that bad taste, I really, you know, you don't have to worry about Smash Run. If you don't care about the challenges, it's not something you have to play. So you can literally ignore it and it won't affect your experience of the game. So just don't if you don't want to.
One other negative that has been raised by a number of reviewers, and I agree with it, is that, and that I should mention I'm playing on the original 3DS, not a 3DS XL, but when you're on certain stages, or when you're playing four player, or basically when there's more than two, um, whenever there's more than two fighters on the screen, the camera will zoom out considerably, like it always has done in Super Smash Bros. But when you're on the handheld, it does sometimes, for me at least, become quite tricky to to see your specific moves, or even to sometimes identify who your character is. Sometimes it can get quite tricky, and I can feel my eyes sometimes straining quite a lot to try and figure out which one of the characters I am, but that's only when the camera zoomed out.
Right, and even though they implemented the opportunity to add outlines to characters, I don't think the outlines help a huge deal.
Yeah,
I
they
mean, they're
really
there,
don't make a
but
big difference, I would say. Is that something you've struggled with the XL?
yeah, I think it's even with the XL, it does appear to be quite a struggle. It's mainly in the single player modes, honestly, going through classic and fighting on some of the larger stages. Yeah, sometimes it's confusing. You don't know who you are. You're not sure, like you're trying to do an attack. You're not sure if that's the attack that's going off or not because it's so far away. But yeah, it's just really a limitation of the hardware, and it's unfortunate that that's the thing, but you can't do much about it in all honesty. It's just like, you gotta just deal with
But
it's just how Smash
yeah, I
works.
mean, but for us, the big we're getting more and more competitive with Smash Brothers, and the more competitive you get, the less you care about items, the more you care about one-on-ones. And when you're playing without items, one-on-one on the Final Destination stages, it looks great. The camera works absolutely fine. It's
Yeah,
really great.
absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, you talked about some of the characters you've been playing as. I've been playing as Lucina mainly, is the character that I have opted for because I was a big fan of Marth in Melee, and Marth is really my main character in that game. And I'm a fan of sword users in general, and Lucina is one of my favorite characters from Fire Emblem
Oh, so
Awakening.
you so you like Toon Link?
Uh, yeah, we'll get to that little fucker in a second. No, so Lucina is someone who I think is a bit faster than Marth. Her power is more balanced throughout the sword, so it's not about the tippers anymore. You don't need to hit with the very edge of the sword. It's more about the whole blade. So it makes things a little bit easier to control, I guess, when you're going for smashes. And I think that she's just a really nice, smooth character. She's fast and she has decent range to her, which makes her a lot of fun to play. But as Bali alluded to, I have had some trouble playing his Toon Link with my Lucina. That has caused me some stress over the past
Yeah.
couple of days
So I
as we've done
mean,
some online matches.
I played a lot of Toon Link and Brawl, and I was so happy he was in that game. And like after the demo, I genuinely was a bit concerned. Like, well, Link is feeling so good in this demo that I'm worried they might have nerfed Toon Link a bit. I don't think they've nerfed Toon Link at all. I
I
think
think they've made him
exactly.
better.
I think he is looking great, and like obviously people know Wind Waker is my favorite game, and I love Toon Link, and he's now, well, he's been since Brawl my main in Smash Brothers. And yeah, I just got in a bit of a zone one time. We were playing online and won quite a string of matches in a row. And yeah, I don't know what got into me then. I don't think I'll
I
ever.
couldn't break through. You were like Iron Manning it. I just couldn't break through your Toon Link. It was really difficult for me.
Yeah, I
So
just I love his versatility in that he has all the range moves, but even when it comes to sword fights, he's right up there with characters like Lucina in terms of toe-to-toe sword fighting, which is a great combination for a character in Smash Brothers. But yeah,
yeah, and I do think you like your characters who have the ability to use
I
projectiles
do.
and close range stuff. You like that versatility, and
Yeah,
it works for your play style. So yeah, it makes perfect sense.
but yeah,
The other character who I've been really enjoying, and I was a little bit afraid because I'd heard beforehand that he wasn't very good, is Shulk from Xenoblade. And of course, you guys know that I am a massive fan of that game, and I was concerned because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, Shulk's terrible. You shouldn't use him. He's not very good." And when I started to use him, I was like, I mean, I guess he's okay. He's not that great, but I started to understand his moves more, and I got into some of the combos that he could pull off. And at this point, I think he may be challenging Lucina for my main because
oh,
I really love the way that Shulk plays. I was able to beat Bali's Toon Link with Shulk relatively
yeah.
comfortably. I was able to beat a lot of your main characters with
Apart
him
from
just
my
because,
worst main, which is Olimar, that was really random. Just so everyone knows, who are
yeah.
your top five mains? Would you say so far?
Well, I mean, I guess probably it's going to be Lucina and Marth, because they're exactly the
Yeah,
same character, pretty
Shulk,
much. Shulk, Mega
Mega
Man, I
Man.
think, because I played so much of him in the demo, and I do like the way he plays. And I'm trying to get good with Robin, but I would probably
Robin.
say someone else. I can't really think of anyone else at the moment. Zero Suit Samus
Zero
probably
Suit
is
Samus.
another.
Those are your top
Yeah,
five.
him trying to
See,
get
my
good with.
top five are Mario. I love Mario. Toon Link, obviously, like I said. Fox. I've always played a bit of Fox. Olimar, Alf. I'm trying to get good with them. And then my favorite newcomer, I said earlier on, Greninja. I really want to get good with him. So those are my top five just now. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, absolutely loving
It's
it.
it's it's going great, and there's all the extra stuff, the trophies, and home run contest. There's so much content in this game to get to, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about those because we will have time in the upcoming weeks to go through that stuff. But I am really looking forward to just binging on trophies and reading the history, and that's one of those extra things about Smash that I've always enjoyed. I know you do as well, Bally.
Yeah,
So
absolutely loving the trophies, and I just spent like an hour reading through all the trophies I unlocked the other day, and it was just so
wow.
satisfying. Loved it.
Yeah, I haven't done that yet. I'm kind of saving them up at the moment, but we'll get there eventually. Yeah, loads more to dig into with Smash. We will get there some point in the future. But for now, we're going to cut things for the show. We have pretty much run our course, and that's going to be us. So thank you for listening. You can find us in many places on the internet. You can find me on Twitter at Lordnbz and on the Miiverse as well, Lordnbz. It's universal branding, so that's very helpful. What about you, Bally?
I'm also a fan of the universal branding. I am on Twitter at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN91, and that is also my name on Miiverse. I was posting quite a lot of Assassin's Creed 4 stuff on Miiverse, so hopefully some of you check that out.
Yeah, you were including yourself getting plastered and wandering around.
Yeah, so yeah, just quick brief mention. Yeah, if you drink a few drinks in Assassin's Creed, the camera goes really, like, the frame rate drops basically, and it's like simulating you being drunk. I've heard something special happens to you if you have 5 drinks. I only had 2. But
well, you're gonna have to try.
I gotta try drinking some more. So that's my aim for next time. But yeah, so
Excellent.
follow me on there.
Excellent. As always, we love to get your emails, and as we said before, we are running low in the bag and the stock, so send those emails, and Bally will tell you where to send them to right now.
Send them to NYPPQuestions@gmail.com.
It's a very easy to remember address. I hope you shall remember it and send us some stuff. iTunes reviews. We have not had many since like July. It's October, so people have been slacking. We need some iTunes reviews, so get on that stuff. We would love to hear from you and your opinions on the show.
All you new RFN listeners, we want to hear what you think.
Excellent, yeah, that would be fantastic. Give us some iTunes reviews. We'd appreciate that highly. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Anything else, Bally, before we close things out?
I was just going to say that it's quite a fitting finishing theme tune for this week's episode.
I'm sure it will be indeed. So I guess until next time, drink up, ye rum, drink up. Yo ho, yo ho. Goodbye.
Yar.
The musical interludes in today's show were the main theme from Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, copyright 2013 Ubisoft, and Super Smash Bros. Brawl, main theme 8-bit, copyright 2008 Nintendo. Hello everyone and welcome to Now You're Playing with the Power Nintendo podcast. What the fuck am I doing? I just messed it up.
Hello, welcome to the
Nintendo podcast. Okay.
We are a Japanese podcast.
Yes, we are a Japanese podcast. We are today I play the Legend of Zelda. Sky with a sword. My favorite.
Well, that's us lost our Japanese fans.
Sorry, Japanese fans.
They're just like, I'm sick of this shit. I'm heading off.
I ain't having this shit. Okay, let's try again.